Well, I'm going to jump quickly into this word today because I believe it is just an extension of what God wants to do. And we're moving into a new series as well over the next 7 weeks. And I want to let you know this is not just a series about vision for this church, but vision for your life. I said it a couple weeks ago, but I want to make this abundantly clear. If you intend to have a successful 2020, whatever success looks like for you, let me be abundantly clear, it does not start in January. I'm going to say that one more time. If you endeavor to have the best 2020 ever, if you say 2020 is going to be my year for vocational success, my year for personal success, my year for relational success, my year for financial success and stewardship, if this is what's going to happen in 2020, here's what we genuinely believe, that you got to start preparing now for what you want to see then. And so this series is going to be all about pioneering not just our church, but each of our lives into the vision that God has for it. The series is called 2020 because we're preparing for the year 2020, but we also want clear vision for our lives in 2020, and we want a pioneer's perspective. I want to go to the book of Numbers, chapter 13. Numbers, chapter 13, and I'm going to be reading verses 17 through 21 and then 26 through 33. Again, Numbers, chapter 17, and for about the next 20 minutes, I need y'all to talk back to me. Is that all right? All right, here it is. Numbers chapter 13, verse 17 says this: when Moses sent them to explore Canaan, he said, go up through the Negev on your way into the hill country. See what the land is like and whether the people who live there are strong or weak, few or many. What kind of land do they live in? Is it good or bad? What kind of towns do they live in? Are they walled or fortified? How is the soil? Is it fertile or poor? Are there trees in it or not? Do your best to bring back some fruit from the land, for it was the season of the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land. Somebody say pioneers. No. I want to tell you this. When they got to the land, they found all of this stuff, and it was just like their ancestors said. It was a land flowing with milk and honey. There was great fruit. There was great things to be able to excite the community about what they were about to step into. Verse 26, we pick it up there. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. They reported to them and the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful. Somebody say but. Whenever you got a but, whenever you're talking about your promise, it's a dangerous place to be in. Because they just talked about all the fruitfulness and all the promises of God they've been praying for. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev, the Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up, take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from Nephilim. We seemed, here it is, like grasshoppers in our own eyes. And we looked the same to them. I want to preach today from this thought for the next 20 minutes. Here it is. The grasshopper must go. Would you just announce it to your neighbor? It's the last time I'm going to ask you to talk to your neighbor. Say, the grasshopper must go. The grasshopper must go. Grasshopper must go. The reality of it is discovery is one of the most celebrated aspects of human history. Those who have gone first or taken something and taken it to another level are those we celebrate and champion and cheer for most. Their contributions to society have transformed our world and our lives forever. Pioneers celebrated, championed, cheered. But if any of us know anything about pioneers, they know that sometimes while discovery is celebrated, all discovery comes with difficulty. All discovery comes with some challenges. And we look at these pioneers and we start to think about all the work that they do, but because pioneers are producers of possibility, they step into the unknown territory to mine out this possibility that has never been seen before, and they find comfort in navigating the troubled waters of wonder and finding out how can we take things to a place we've never been before. Pioneers, all of us love them. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, pioneers. Start to look at Steve Jobs, and we look at our Apple phones, and we look at Android users and wonder how in the world they know God. Don't you hate it when they mess up the blue? Like you got a text message group going on, and you be like, look, this one person. Pioneers. Steve Jobs. We start to look at people like Walt Disney or the Wright brothers. We start to think about people like W.E.B. Du Bois. We start to think about pioneers of culture and representation, the first to do it, like Barack and Michelle Obama. We begin to think about people like Jackie Robinson. We begin to think about people like Sally Ride. And as of late, I got to be honest with you, I begin to even think about my grandfather. Many of you may have seen on my social media page, my grandfather passed on Wednesday, and I begin to think about him, and you know, in loss, you start to look back at someone's legacy and their life. And my grandfather was the first African-American colonel in Chesapeake, Virginia Sheriff's Department. He was a pioneer, and begin to think about the effort and the ethic and the energy that it takes to pioneer. See, some of us like the idea of pioneering, just not the pressure of pioneering. Some of us like the idea of pioneering, just not the opposition of pioneering. Some of us like the idea of pioneering, just not the instigators that come with it. Some of us like the idea of pioneering, but there is a tension that you will feel if you want to go where no one's gone before. There is a fear that will arise at times when you want to do what nobody's ever seen before. But pioneers are necessary for the future, and we all are pioneers in our own right. When you begin to look at yourself, you have to understand that in all seasons, you should be both discovering self and discovering purpose. Figuring out how to pioneer your own life. You know, my kids are in a pioneering season. My kids are in a pioneering season. I saw one of my kids eat their boogers for the first time the other day. It messed me up. New territory. They just said, I'm just trying this out. We're going to see what happened. I just looked in judgment. I said, look at you. Look at you. Just all nasty. Look at you. I recognize they're pioneering. They're exploring new territory. So don't shake their hand in the hallway. I ain't gonna tell you which one it is. Just be like, hey, all right. They're gonna be like, hello. You be like, I'll stop now. Like, pioneering. Many of us in our personal lives, if you made any vocational shift, maybe you left a context where you were more stable. Maybe you stepped out on faith to start a business. We all find ourselves pioneering in some season. And as a church, we're pioneering. We desire to do some things that we've never seen before. We desire to go some places that we've never been before. But the truth of the matter is, in times like these, fear cannot have the final say. I came to let somebody know this today because here's the danger. We talk about pioneering on Sunday morning, and it sounds real cute, and it sounds real exciting until you sit by yourself in your living room and wonder, how in the world am I going to make this happen? I came to let somebody know this today who might have thought that faith meant the absence of fear. I dare not think so. I actually believe faith is just knowing how to take fear along on the ride, watch this, and make sure it's in the passenger seat and not the driver's seat. Fear cannot have the final say if we are to accomplish pioneering endeavors. Watch this, because if fear is your filter, then faith will be subtracted, not sustained. It's a filter. The question is really simple for us today. Is fear or faith your filter? Because every conversation you have, you will filter through fear or faith. Every meeting you have, you will filter through fear or faith. Every post that you make, you will filter through fear or faith. I went to a friend's house not too long ago, and you know, they had a filter on their sink. Had a filter on their sink, and I began to talk to them, and they was like, oh, no, just get you some water from the sink. I got a filter up there. Here's the crazy part. This person has studied their filters. They were like, my filter is UV alkaline water ionizer. I said, say what? I said, I just want some water. They said, Vernon, you just can't be drinking water. You got to understand, you got to look at the water. You know, you got to look at the water because there are 5 different types of filters. There's activated carbon, reverse osmosis, alkaline, ionizer, UV, and infrared. I said, I just want some water. They said, Vernon, you just can't consume anything because watch this, if you're not careful about the filter, you can consume contamination. Got to help 20 people today. And you'll look up and wonder why you're feeling like you're dying on the inside. It's not because you didn't have a good idea. It's not because you weren't connected to God. It's just that you didn't have the right filter on your conversation. Okay, let me talk to 20 people today. If fear is your filter, then you will look up and constantly wonder, why don't I have courage? And why don't I have faith? And why am I not reading my Bible? And why am I doubting what God told me? And why am I insecure? And why am I unsure of myself? And why am I wondering, should I be here or should I not? But when faith is your filter, you can get told no and still smile. You can be like, it's cool. You'll see me on the other side. Somebody can shut the door and you'll say, I got another key. You can look at a situation that does not seem ideal because you'll say, I'm not filtering this through fear. I'm filtering it through faith. Faith must be our filter. Let me talk about the people of Israel real quick. I got to go watch it. The people of Israel understand this challenge all too well. Here they are entering into the promised land or on the verge of the promised land. Lauren, they're right there. They're on the edge. They're ready to walk in. This has been what their ancestors have been telling them about, praying about. They've been saying, this is it. We've been pioneering. We've walked through the wilderness. We sent some scouts out. Everything is going to be all right. Some of you know the story. Maybe all of us don't. Maybe we don't know the back side of this story, but let me just let you know what happened. Spoiler alert. You know, you don't hate the person who tells you the end of the movie before you went and see it. That's what I'm about to do right now. Here it is. I'm not preaching the end today, but here's how the story ends up. They end up wandering the wilderness for 40 years because God's disappointment with them was, I expected more of you all. And because they spread a negative report and allowed fear to be their filter, what should have only took days took decades. Okay. What should have been only a moment ended up being a miserable journey, all because they didn't have the right filter. People of Israel are in this journey, and this is what I thought was crazy because a lot of times we only read Numbers 13, but I want to go to Numbers 33 really quick. I want you to see something with me that messed me up. Are you ready? This is going to mess you up. I think it's going to mess you up the way it messed me up. See, in Numbers 13, we find out that they were supposed to get to the promised land. We thought that they were going to walk right in, but then their fear caused them to have to wander in the wilderness for 40 years, days to decades. But watch this. I thought the most powerful part of the text was the fact that they just were wandering the wilderness. What messed me up was what happened in Numbers 33. Numbers 33, verse 1 tells us this. It says, here are the stages in the journey of the Israelites when they came out of Egypt by divisions under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the Lord's command, Moses recorded the stages in their journey, and this is their journey by stages. I'm going to skip to verse 5. Y'all ready? Verse 5. Watch this with me. Now, we're going to summarize all of these. I'm just going to read the beginning part. Y'all just going to start reading it with me. All right? You ready? Verse 5. The Israelites left Ramesses and camped at Succoth. All right? Verse 6. They what? Okay, let's go to verse 7. They what? Okay, let's go to verse 8. They what? Okay, let's go to verse 9. They what? Let's go to verse 10. All right, we just going to just play catch up and see if this is a pattern, okay? Verse 11, 13, 14, 17. Let's just go to 17. Let's just go to 17. Let's just go and skip to 17. What did happen? Let's go to verse 18. All right. Does anybody trust me? Does anybody trust me? Does anybody trust me now? Anybody trust me? Okay, let me tell you what's crazy. You can read this whole chapter. Read this whole chapter, and it constantly talk about all the places they had to leave. Watch this. Then in verse 18, this is actually where they are camped, ready to go into the promised land. Verse 18, this is where they are camped out, ready to go to the promised land. When we pick up Numbers 13, they are right here. There are 27 lefts that will happen after this particular passage. Watch this, don't miss this. 27 transitions will take place in their life. 27 unnecessary movements. 27 transitions. 27 moments of they had to leave this and leave that and go here and go there. Watch this. 27 transitions, all because pioneers couldn't press their way into the promise. Okay. People who decided to have the wrong filter. Now watch this. This is what's crazy about it. This is what's crazy about it. And my points are going to go real fast today, but here's what's crazy about it. They get to the point where they're about to walk into the promise. And now they have 27 transitions. But you would think after all that God did for them before they got here, they would have walked right in. I mean, you remember it. This is the God who sent 10 plagues to deliver them from 400 years of captivity. This is the God who sent Moses to do signs, wonders, and miracles in their presence. This is the God who opened up a whole sea. And they walked through it on dry land. One would think that after seeing all of that, when they got to the promised land, they would have had so much confidence. One would think that when they got on the cusp of their victory and their freedom and the true formation of all they had been praying for their future, one would think that they had seen enough to be able to have confidence in God's ability. Here it is. You ready? And they become wanderers because their discipleship wasn't ready for their discovery. I want to teach right here for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to move to 3 points, and I'm out. Please hear me. Their discipleship hadn't caught up with their discovery. What do you mean, Vernon? I mean, in all of our lives, there are 2 discoveries happening simultaneously. There is discipleship, which is the ongoing practice of self-discovery. It is learning more and answering this question: who am I called to be? Watch it. But then destiny, watch this, is the ongoing journey of discovery of purpose. And it is answering the question, what am I called to? Now watch this. In between that period is always discovery. And based on how well you steward discovery will determine the fulfillment of your destiny. Prove it to you. People get to this promised land and they look at their discovery. They've pioneered to this point. They've walked through the wilderness. They walked through the sea. They get on the edge and now they're about to walk into promise. But when they get to the discovery, they do not see themselves as ready enough. Discipleship. To be able to walk into what God has called them to, destiny. And if you don't steward discovery well, you will constantly be mad at God. Here it is. For all of your wandering. When the wandering was only a result of discipleship that had not caught up to discovery. I'm trying to help somebody today. This is why you got to get a prayer life before you get to 2020. Because God might open a door, but if you don't see yourself right, you'll walk away from it out of fear. Okay, this is why you got to get your financial stewardship right in 2019 for 2020. Because God might give you the opportunity to sow into something or to plant something or to start a business. But if you ain't saved nothing, y'all quiet in the back, then you won't be able to walk into it. This is why God has to deal with discipleship and self-discovery. Because the people of Israel, here's what robs them of the pioneer. Ready? It is not how they see God. It's how they see them. It's in the text. It's in the text. Look what happens in the text. They know God is good. They even see the fruit that was promised to them. The challenge is, they said, we look like grasshoppers to ourselves. Challenge I want to raise to you today is, how do you be a pioneer in your own life? Same question I'm asking is, how do we be pioneers as a church? And I believe there are 3 things I want you to consider today. These are going to go fast, but I want you to write them all down. Number 1, I want you to recognize that you have to believe in the vision. Now that sounds real simple, but belief in the Greek is also synonymous with the word faith. And as I talked about a couple weeks ago, faith is a verb, which means it must happen in action. So that means you cannot truly believe something if you don't act like it. See, this is the big thing I want you to grab hold to before you leave today. When you're preparing for your 2020, I don't want you to just celebrate a new year. I want you to celebrate a new you. And when people talk to you, they're going to be like, you're just more confident than I've ever seen you before. And you say, no, I just believe now that I'm really capable. I just believe now that I can really do it. I just believe now that it's possible. When we started this church, you saw in the video, we put the terms that we heard most often. And the thing we heard most when we first started was, you're too young. But we believed that we could do something. Now I talked to a pastor not too long ago, and I talked to him about a heart for diversity. I said, I believe that God can help us have multiple ethnicities worshiping in the same space under minority leadership. And they said, that's never happened before, Vernon, and it's definitely not going to happen in Richmond, Virginia, what used to be the capital of the Confederate. That's not going to happen. But because I believe, I said, thank you for the free lunch. I'll send you a picture when it happens. Y'all quiet today. Another pastor told me generations will never worship together. They said boomers will never worship with millennials and Gen Z will never worship with Gen X. But I just told them, thank you for the coffee. I'll send you a picture. When I find some boomers who don't mind seeing some bright lights, and I find some millennials who don't mind dressing up every now and then, I find some people who love hymns from every generation. I just believe that it's possible. I just believe in the vision. But here's the challenge. You got to understand this for your personal life. I want you to see this today. Scouts can help you see fruit, but rarely can they help you see future. It's become temptation. Some of you, your greatest temptation has been you listen way too much to people who are you called to scout for you, but they can't help you cast vision. So they can tell you what they see in the present, but they can't tell you what the promises of God are. So here's the first warning I want to give you today. There's some people who are going to help you, but be careful not to give them the vision. Because 10 people come back, and they're great scouts, but they have no vision for the future. And because of it, they spread a bad report. Here's the second thing, though, real quick. You got to build your confidence. You got to build your confidence. And here's the thing I want you to wrestle with here. You got to be faithful to his promise. Somebody, his promise. And not just your perspective. Here's the greatest lie we sometimes tell ourselves is that we know what's best for us. The whole idea of Christianity is that I'm coming to a God and say, God, you know what's best for me. But the challenge sometimes is we start wrestling with God about, God, I think I have a better idea for my life than you do. Here these 10 people are. And I want you to contextualize. God tells him to choose 12 people. Which means the 10 people who came back with a bad report were good people. They loved God, but they had no confidence. And when they come back, they're only faithful to their perspective, not God's promise. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Vernon, how do I build confidence? Here's how you build confidence. And this is why church is so important, and community is so important, and accountability is so important. This is why life groups are so important. When you got some people around you who can help you, give you some tools, because watch this, there will be some moments where you look at your future and say, I don't know if I can do that. There's going to be some moments where you look at your future and be like, that's a high wall to get over. There's some moments where you're going to look at it and see, I don't know how that's going to ever open up. But when you have community, they give you tools that you could not have before to accomplish what God has called you to do. Prove it to you the other day, our door wasn't working. Some of you saw me post this on social media, the delayer. I still don't know what it's called. You know what I'm talking about, right? The little thing that closed the door. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. Screen door won't close him because the little bar at the bottom was broke. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And then I decided to fix it myself. Now, for those who know me well, not a good idea. But I was talking to Tim Perry about it. Tim Perry was in the back room, and he was talking to me about it. He was doing some work in the brick building. I said, Tim, I think I'm going to fix this thing. My wife been walking past this door. I seen the look that she gave. She gave me the look like if it ain't fixed by next week, it's going to be a problem. So I said, I got it. Don't even got to say no more. I see the look. It's going to be taken care of. And I begin to take my efforts to the next level. I went to the store, went to Lowe's, and I went to go buy my little closer thing, whatever the thing is at the bottom of the door. Went to buy it. And I went and found it, and I came home, and I started trying to do the work, but I didn't have all the tools. I thought it was just going to be a simple plug and play. I thought all I needed was a screwdriver, but I needed a drill. And then I got a drill, but I needed bits. Tim said, don't worry about it, player, I got you. He said, look here. He said, I'm going to go to the truck. I'm going to grab everything you need. I'm going to grab everything you need. He gave me a drill. He gave me bits. He gave me a couple other things that I didn't need, but maybe he thought maybe I was going to mess something up and I was going to need to fix something. I don't know. Here's what I'm trying to tell you today. I fixed the door all by myself. Come on, everybody clap. Where's the shout music for that? Okay, you missed it. Never mind. Don't worry about it. Fix the door. But here's the thing. I fixed the door, and I didn't have all the tools. But I had a community that could give me tools that I didn't have. Can I help 20 people over here? And this is why some of you have been saying, what's the value of church? Well, if you don't talk to nobody, you'll never find it. But there's 20 people in this room who need 20 people on the other side. And once you connect to what church is all about, there's some things that you don't know. There's some things you've never seen. There's some things that are beyond you. But thanks be unto God, we got some wisdom. We got some energy. We got some passion. We got some accomplishment. And together, somebody say together, I can find some tools to do everything that God is calling me to. I got to move because we got to get out of here. But here's the last thing that you got to understand today. Not only must you build your confidence, not only must you believe in the vision, but here's the last thing I need you to understand. I need you to beware of the grasshoppers. Watch this. Beware of the grasshoppers, because the message you carry is the reality you will conceive. The message you carry will be the reality that you conceive. Here's the danger for the people of Israel. They get to the edge of the promised land. And they're ready to walk in, but 10 people who were trusted, 10 people who should have had confidence, 10 people who knew what God was capable of, 10 people came back with a grasshopper mentality and said, it's not possible. It's not possible. And here's what I want to challenge you to think about today. What if everything that God has for you is right there in front of you? The only thing standing on your way is a grasshopper perspective. They get to everything that God had for them. Their destiny is right there. And they didn't lose a battle to giants. They lost a battle to grasshoppers. Don't miss it. You would think they lost a battle to giants. Giants didn't beat them. Grasshoppers did. How many of us today are looking at our life in discontent simply because we allowed a grasshopper perspective to tell us that we were not enough, to tell us what was impossible, to tell us we couldn't do it, to tell us that it was something that was just beyond our scope of understanding and beyond our abilities and beyond our network. But I came to let you know today that what God has for you, it is for you. But the grasshoppers got to go. The grasshoppers got to go. Let me tell you the danger. Here's my closing point. Rivers, come on back up here. Here's my closing thought. Here's why it's so instrumental for you to get rid of the grasshoppers in your life, in your mind, in your heart. Here it is. Because if you don't fight for it now, you'll be looking for it later. 40 years of looking for what was right in front of them. All because they didn't have the confidence and the courage to fight for what they had in front of them now. 27 transitions later. All because they didn't have the courage to fight for it now. I came to let you know there's some things that we're going to do as a church in 2020 and beyond, because I just believe I refuse to look at God and God look back at me and say, I allowed a grasshopper perspective to rob us of being the church God called us to be. And yeah, I wake up scared sometimes. And yeah, I look around sometimes and I'm like, man, they just keep showing up and they keep looking like that. And they looking at me and they like, you better talk good today. And I'm scared y'all look mean in the face. Yeah, a little scared up here, a little scared. You might want to switch one Sunday? Come on up here. But because my heart is for this house, because I believe in what God wants to do in the vision of this house, I will be the two. I will be Caleb. I will be Joshua. And we will declare, certainly we can do it. But if it's going to be possible, the grasshopper must go. Same thing in your life. In your life, there's some things you want to accomplish in 2020. And for the next 6 weeks, we're going to talk about how to accomplish it. But let me tell you something. We can talk about all the skills for stewardship. We can talk about all the skills for courage. We can talk about all the skills for networking. But if when you get to the promise, the grasshopper speaks louder than God, it'll be all for naught. So if you bow your heads with